Okay. Hi, everybody. So thanks for doing my focus group. Before we get started, we're going to just do a quick go around of who you are, your name, your major, your year, and a fun fact about yourself. So you can start over here.
I'm Joe. I am a political science major. I'm a senior. And my fun fact is that I have a lot of great friends.
Nice. Yep.
I'm Lincoln Crutchfield. I'm a junior history major. And my fun fact is that whenever Doug walks into a room, he just lights it up.
That's Doug's fun fact.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Emerson Doran. I'm a political science and women's studies major. I graduated in the year 2017. Is that what you wanted? My fun fact is that this one guy, after he won the how to be a millionaire or whatever, what is it?
Who wants to be a millionaire?
Who wants to be a millionaire? Anyway, yeah, he won that, and then the first thing he did was, before he answered the question, last question, he used his last lifeline and called his dad to tell him that he just won $1 million.
That was the first person that won the game.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. All right.
I'm Doug. I'm a sophomore political science major, and my fun fact is that whenever Lincoln Crutchfield walks into a room, he just lights it up.
Awesome.
My name's Sarah Tavard. I'm a senior psych and justice studies major, and my fun fact is that I'm Amanda's roommate.
Woo-woo.
My name is Jacob Rainey. I'm a festival events management major, and they changed it. I know.
Oh.
R&P, cool.
Shut up.
My fun fact is that I'm Amanda's boyfriend.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that.
I was forced to do that.
We're all being held captive.
Stop it!
If you see this, it's too late.
Okay, alright, so, I have munchkins here, too. If, you guys want any.
Too.
So, you guys can have some. They're over here. This is literally for a class, so I don't know. We should be started.
Fun fact.
What?
Jake can show you how to edit it.
Okay. So, anyway, yeah, so there's munchkins over here. Feel free to take some if you want. So now that we've all introduced ourselves, let's go into the discussion for today. This shouldn't be too long, but I hope you all got a chance to read my email with the articles. And so why don't we start off with just talking about your initial thoughts, what you thought about it, just briefly. You can go around, whoever wants, it doesn't have to be
I really liked the NPR article.
You did?
I thought that was great.
What did you like about it?
I thought it provided good insight on the current stresses on the, I would say, Narcan industry, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Who can get it, who can't get it.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else have any initial thoughts on the articles from when they read them? No one? Yeah, oh yeah, you can go.
Yeah, so when I went into reading them, I initially never thought, like, that should be a thing, like Narcan. I thought that, but then after reading the articles and then looking into it more, I realized that it does, like, help a lot of people. And after seeing, like, friends of friends on my Facebook, like, of talking about their recoveries and people's moms, like, you know, grieving over their lost sons and all that, I changed my mind, so.
That's cool. Sarah, I saw you nodding your head.
Yeah, I thought the same way. I thought it would just enable people to do it more, but I think that's actually not true, which one article said.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely the articles can change your perspective. So, anyone else have anything to say before we move on? No? Okay. So, drug addicts are oftentimes viewed as in need of help or also like as junkies in today's society. So, what do you guys think should be done for drug addicts, whether it be heroin or any other type of drug, just to start off kind of broad? Yeah.
I think we need to treat it like an illness and not like a crime. Like, it's really silly that we, will be more apt to throw people in jail and continue to perpetuate the prison industrial complex, where there's really just people that need help. And yeah, there's violent crime associated with it, and those people should be prosecuted. The dealers that, cause harm in communities should be prosecuted, but the users that are just, they're their kids or they're people that have just been caught up in something, whether they got it through painkillers or through the streets, they need our help, and we shouldn't turn our back on them.
Emerson, yeah.
A 15-year-old kid actually is, I don't know, we were talking about it in class today, but he was in New Hampshire and he overdosed on heroin. So it's not just like a 20-something problem, it's a child's problem too. And the thing with like the war on drugs that was created in the 70s was definitely targeted at drug users of low income backgrounds, to just like put them away and just keep throwing them in jail. But that's not the way to solve problems. The way to solve problems is to have more facilities, especially in New Hampshire up north. Like Berlin doesn't have any treatment facilities, so they definitely need to get more of those to help those suffering from addiction.
Right.
Yeah, I think Joe hit on a really important point about the prison industrial complex. We need to fundamentally change the way we think about rehabilitation and treating people who are addicted to drugs. Throwing somebody in prison isn't gonna get them off drugs. It's just not. What you are gonna do is you're gonna take a lot of people who are nonviolent drug users, and you actually in turn make them more violent by putting them in a violent environment.
The violence mill.
Exactly. So we need to fundamentally change our approach away from incarceration and into a more treatment-oriented approach.
Right.
Well, New Hampshire does have drug courts, right?
We're slowly setting them up.
Yeah, it's like a
It's still
step in the right
taking a time, but yeah.
That kind of like puts them on like, what's it called? When you're like watched, but like
Like surveillance, like
no
Probation.
probation,
Oh.
parole.
Are,
Yeah.
are those just new in New Hampshire, or are they solidified anywhere else?
They're coming. I don't want to jump and just give facts, but like drug courts have been like kind of popping up around the country over the
Yeah.
last few years, and
You
there are
ain't
ways
try to panel on them.
there are ways to sort of put everybody into one track, with a certain type of
Right.
offense.
Well, you do get an option.
Right.
Like if you don't want to rehab yourself, you can just go to prison.
But it's an option, and it alleviates a lot of. It's a county thing. It alleviates a lot of town and municipal resources, and helps the county sort of help out because it is a regional issue.
Cool. So going off of that, do you guys think it's America's like duty as like citizens or as maybe government workers to help those people battling drug addictions?
I would. I'll start. I would say yes. I think we we have a fundamental responsibility to each other. I think not just from a public policy standpoint, although I think that's a very important piece of it. But I think we as individuals need to have the ability to be able to speak up when we see loved ones or people that we know who clearly need help. And so I would say yes.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else have any thoughts on that? Don't be afraid to speak up if you have like a different opinion or anything. No?
I 100% agree with Doug.
Yeah, it's an illness, and we
Absolutely.
we have a societal impact. We put on giant fundraisers to cure other illnesses,
Mm-hmm.
and for us to treat this illness any different just because people made choices. I mean, people choose to smoke cigarettes and they get lung cancer. We're not going to kick those people out of the hospitals because they did it to themselves.
We're not going to stop researching lung
Yeah.
cancer or anything.
Like, and it's,
Like there's a lot of shame around mental illnesses because people don't understand them and think they like chose that or somehow like brought it upon themselves. When,
Yeah. It's an interesting point about the cigarettes. What would you guys say if someone said that Narcan or Nalcon, whatever you guys know it as a drug that is used to reverse an opiate overdose, could be seen as an influence to someone continue using drugs? So would you agree with that or would you disagree with that, and why? Emerson, you can start.
I would disagree that it like enables them to do it, because that one article said that it was like people came that close to dying and then wanted to turn it around because they were so close to death. So I really don't believe that it would enable anyone, especially since I'm pretty sure that Narcan, like after like the fourth or fifth time, stops working.
Exactly.
It wears off.
I was just gonna mention that.
So
Right.
and it's inexpensive. So I guess if you're doing it 4 or 5 times, it's like, but what are you gonna do?
I would say I think I don't think it. I think it's a lot more. I would just say that if someone's using Narcan, or someone has Narcan administered, I think and they continue to use after they've had Narcan, and it's brought them back from an overdose. I don't think that the Narcan is the reason they said we're going to do it. I think they are not at a place where they are ready to fight the illness yet. If they're going to continue to use, regardless of what it's either they die or they're going to come back and continue to use. They're just not at a place where they're ready to, or they don't have the resources where they're ready to heal.
Yeah, like claiming that Narcan encourages people to continue to use heroin is saying like an EpiPen encourages people to have allergies. Like it's just a non sequitur.
Yeah.
Like it's the same argument they make against medical amnesty policies. That
And it's just because you can't guarantee that if you're the one in an overdose, you can't administer yourself. So you are relying on other people to be there. So it's either you die from it or someone else was there to administer it to you. So it's not like your choice, but you are lucky if you used it and came.
Right. Yeah. Those people are going to continue to use regardless of what they're given Narcan, and all you're doing by saying is no, they don't get Narcan is saying you die instead of getting a second chance. Maybe that second chance comes years down the road after continued use, but there's potential for them to turn their life around and heal.
Definitely. So do you guys believe, that being said, that police officers should have Narcan on them at all times? Because a lot of times when people are in situations like that, they may call 911. So people who are around them, they see someone overdosing. So a lot of people have commented that they don't think police are fit to have it on them because they don't think police are like medical professionals. But what do you guys think? Do you think that police officers are there to save the community, kind of like we talked about earlier?
Yes, I definitely think that they should have it on them, mainly because from what we read about, it's relatively easy to administer and learn how to administer, and
you can't overdose on it.
Yeah, you can't overdose on it. So I don't think. I also think schools should have it. High schools, colleges should have it in their health services. Because I've seen it at my high school. I've seen kids messed up on stuff, and I think that would be beneficial because it is scary, and you might not know what to do, and. Yeah, calling the police should be helpful, but I know some people might be afraid to, but they should definitely have it.
But I think if you're trained as a first responder, you can easily be trained to administer that. It is like an
That would be my point. And the NPR article brought that up and said, what happens, it blocks the opioid receptors in your brain, so, a lot of people will experience withdrawal symptoms shortly after the Narcan takes complete effect. And They pointed out that some withdrawal symptoms, heart attack, seizures, vomiting. So I would differ and say that I don't think schools should. I mean, I think a school nurse should have it. But I think only the nurse should be allowed to administer it.
Yeah.
And I also think police officers should have it because I think a basic level, how to use an AED. I think a lot of police officers have AEDs in their cars. I think they know how, a basic level of training can easily be given to a police officer who are already familiar with basic medical practices.
Most schools have AEDs too.
Most schools have AEDs, so it's very easy to take care of like a heart attack. Vomiting is easy to overcome. That's everyone knows side. And I think the only thing that's left is really kind of identifying seizures, maybe some of the others, specific violent illnesses associated with withdrawal. But I also think if you administer Narcan, as a school or as a police officer, and a more qualified medical professional is not far behind.
Right.
Well, it's similar to the example that Joe used with the EpiPen. When you stick somebody with an EpiPen, you're not done.
Don't kick them right back out on the street and say, go play in the bees again.
Right, yeah, so.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on that?
Well, like one of the articles mentioned, some parents would like to have it, and I think that's also, we keep bringing it back to the EpiPen, but they seem kind of similar because they're treating something, and I think a parent could easily be trained also, and they would like to have that.
Yeah, and that brings me to my next point. What are your views on the idea that Narcan should be over the counter at pharmacies? So anybody can go in and get it, kind of just like a lot of different drugs. You can go in and get ibuprofen, things like that, which obviously aren't the same thing, but what do you guys think of it being over the counter?
I'm in favor of it. It's you gotta make sure it's administered properly, but at the same time, sometimes the police can't get there fast enough. Sometimes people don't call the police because they're scared. Because they'll call the police and they have to weigh the balance. Like, does possible prosecution, jail time, maybe my friend's just gonna live through this and he's not gonna die. If there's a lot of decisions that have to be made.
Right.
I think most people would call the police in that situation, but I also think we should enable people to, and maybe make it part of the treatment process. So you can get it, but we'll know that you have it, and we're trying to make it so that we're eliminating risk and that we're managing it well.
Yeah, I think as long as it's regulated properly, what that would look like from a policy standpoint, I'm not sure. But as long as it's regulated properly, I think having it accessible to the general public could be a step in the right direction.
Right. Anything else on that? No?
I would say it's. I'm okay with Narcan being available to guardians, legal guardians of individuals. I'm not okay with it being available to general family members, loved ones. I just think that the medical treatment that's needed right after administering is not. Is more likely to follow a guardian than it is to follow with a brother or sister or a loved
That's what I was
one.
gonna say. And even you can't get EpiPens over the counter, so I think especially college age students, you don't want to go to the police. Everyone's afraid of getting in trouble.
Exactly.
They're just gonna go to the store, get it, administer it, and then think they're fine, sleep it off. They might not follow through. That's just the most scary part.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A mother, a father, a guardian would want to make sure.
Much more like a call.
Right. Bring you to the hospital no matter
further medical
Right.
attention.
Yeah, it's interesting because in college students definitely let a lot of really dangerous situations slide because it's kind of just the atmosphere. So I think that's really interesting. But then on the other end, people have brought up facts of situations drug dealers could get it very easily because a drug dealer could be somebody's guardian, could be somebody's mom or dad. So what if drug dealers had it and they were selling it along with the heroin, saying, here's the heroin that you want so badly, but also here's something that could possibly save you from an overdose. What do you guys think of that? Is that you think too minimal of a risk to consider?
I think it's always from a public policy standpoint, it's usually not beneficial to operate in too many hypotheticals. Theoretically, could something like that happen? Sure, but I think that, we could come up with a hypothetical scenario for just about any public policy decision, and if we let that, hinder us too much, then we, we start to become stagnated. So I'd be hesitant to put too much in that.
And I just think, I don't know if someone who's dealing drugs, I feel like they have enough business that they're not really worried. People are going to buy the heroin regardless if the Narcan is with it. I think it just wouldn't add a lot of hype to it. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that if they had, just playing for devil's advocate, if they had someone that said that if you used this to get better, if you were to overdose, looking back at the money trail, I think that it would just allow the buyer to just buy more heroin from the dealers, giving the dealers more money because they had that one caveat, that one brand bonus.
Yeah, that could definitely be a point. Anything else? A lot of people have, for Narcan have stated that they think saving someone in the home, so, say your legal guardian had Narcan on them and they knew they were using it, they had it for situations like that, versus saving someone in the hospital is a lot safer because when they're saved in the hospital, a lot of times the hospital, they don't have time to mother you, they don't have time to parent you, so they're going to send you back out on the streets. So do you guys think that that's true? Do you think that that's a valid argument for Narcan, that if you're going to save them at home, they're more likely to stop using? Or do you think the opposite, where they feel safe, so they're like, oh, well, I know my parent or whomever may be saving me because they have it? So What do you guys think of that?
I honestly think there might be more shame involved in getting saved at home because.
Oh my god.
It's still going.
Oh, okay.
No, it's not.
Is
Wait,
it?
stop.
No, it's still going.
Yay!
Okay, everyone keep going. Sorry.
Do you have your charger with you? Just making sure.
Yeah, it's at 71%. Okay, keep going.
I just think there's might be more shame involved at home because I think there are certain situations, but I think a lot of people don't really want to let their parents there and not really let them see them like that. So, but whereas like in a hospital with strangers, like yeah, they saved me and now I'm good. Whereas your parents are going to be like super disappointed, like maybe angry, and I think that just might hit home a little bit more.
Yeah, I would definitely be much more inclined to urge people to seek professional medical attention because I can sort of understand where that argument is coming from in terms of people maybe feeling safer at home, but I think that we don't want to, for lack of better words, mess around too much with something like this.
Right.
So
I would also kind of hope that any parent kind of looking over their child wouldn't think they would need a narcotic to save them from heroin. You know, like
in the case of not an overdose, just them knowing they're using
right,
it.
right. Just like if they knew that they were using it, give them professional help before it even got to that point of overdose.
Yeah.
I would also just wonder, and I mean, you know, maybe the professionals would look at me and go, you're crazy, but I wonder if there would be some way to write a law that said after administration of Narcan, you are legally required to seek professional medical help via 911.
Right.
Not just find, you know, some bumpkin doctor who's going to give you a quick script and walk
Yeah.
away, but you need to call 911 and seek. Yeah, I don't know. If that's...
I mean, generally speaking, you really can't compel people to seek medical attention for something. I mean, there are some exceptions for minors. So maybe you would say something like, you know, if this is administered to a minor, they would have to go to a hospital. But for somebody who's over 18, there isn't allowed legal justification for compelling them to seek medical attention for something.
Yes. My counterpoint to that would be, aren't you doing a similar thing now by not allowing people to have it? You're saying if you want it, you have to seek medical advice, attention,
Right.
because only legal medical professionals can give it to you. And if you get Narcan, you have to go to the hospital.
Right.
Because by being on a mind-altering substance, you're immediately unable to sign away.
Right.
You're immediately unable to sign AMA against medical advice.
I
They will
would
take you to the hospital no matter what.
I would just be curious as to how large the state would need to get in order to regulate and oversee that process. Or they'd be doing checks on if you use your Narcan or not. And well, it would be one. In my opinion, it would be one of those laws that we have, and we have a lot of these laws where we don't find out you broke the law until something else happened, and then we're going to tack on another penalty to you because you messed up along the process.
Yeah, I would agree.
So-
My thought would be just maybe it's the threat, especially for if we're gonna, again, hypothetical, if we're going to allow guardians to have it, the threat that if you're a guardian, you administer Narcan and you do not call 911, you could be fined or whatever. You know, I mean, it doesn't. Like you said, I know
Right.
it's hard to oversee, but I just wonder if something like that would ensure that people are treated
I think
properly.
it's the same sort of theories that led to the war on drugs in the first place.
Well, this actually brings me to my next question, which is, so I know we mentioned earlier in the discussion that you can't, after 4 or 5 times, it's not going to work on you anymore. But a student in our class told me how he used to work with police officers who would go to houses because of heroin overdoses. And because, you know, it's been like a huge epidemic in New England, mostly like New Hampshire and Massachusetts are really bad. But he was saying that a lot of the police officers would be like, I go to the same house like 3 times a month. Not necessarily the same person, but, you know, people hang out. You are who you hang out with a lot of the time. You're with people who are also using. So I guess the question is, do you think that it should be like your one and done kind of thing? Or going back to like, is it the community's obligation to help those in need in that regard? Like, should we not be shutting them out because on one side it's a mental illness, like they have an addiction, or should we be kind of like tough love, like, okay, we gave you one shot, like, we're not coming back to to help in that sense.
I would not support putting limits on going to certain locations. I think when you're dealing with issues of life and death, I think you want to err on the side of saving somebody's life as opposed to making a point.
Right.
That's really what it would come down to if we said, oh, we're not going to go anymore. That's really us trying to make a point, and that's generally something that we don't do.
That's a dark way to make a point.
Yeah, I would agree that if somebody's in need of help, if their life is in danger, and we have the potential, I mean, obviously if you go there and someone you've administered it 8 times on and it's not going to work, I mean, you still got to try.
Right.
You always got to try, I think.
Yeah, this isn't a video game.
Yeah, that'd be pretty hard to explain to somebody's parents. It's like, we had the ability to maybe save your child, but but we went to this other house. We went to this house a couple times before, so we gotta just let your kid die.
It's Hunger Games.
Right.
That'd be pretty hard to explain to a parent.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, definitely. And just like kind of wrapping up, because we're almost at a half an hour, and I want to make sure you guys can go to your work and stuff. But you mentioned earlier, like I know Emerson mentioned, she read of somebody who was 15 who was using heroin. So a lot of people say that like people who are really against narcan and like just saving anybody in that sense are people who are saying like, well, you should be using education to save someone. Like this should be in the school system. So I know like where I went to high school, we had DARE. I don't know if you guys had the same thing, which is like drug and
no.
Drug and
Drug and
alcohol resistance.
Yes. And
it doesn't stand for and. It stands for that alcohol.
Yeah. But I know that we like learned about stuff. I was in 6th grade, so I don't know what you guys were. But a lot of people are saying if there's a lack of education in school systems, you're going to see a lot more kids leaving using drugs and drinking excessively. And so, do you think that plays a larger role in it, and maybe that's where the prevention is going to come from, not necessarily letting them get to that point and then teaching them a lesson? Do you think at that point it's too late?
One of my friends from high school that I graduated with OD'd and died 2 months ago from heroin, and we had the same education.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was the same. We used to hang out and play basketball together after school. But after graduation, he had no options.
Mm-hmm.
He was staying in where he's always been, doing the same things, working at the same fast food restaurant.
Right.
I get to go to college, pursue an education, have a future, like a real future.
Yeah.
And so, from my anecdotal experience, it was a lack of hope that led him to start using drugs. It wasn't a lack of education. People are smart. They know heroin's bad.
Yeah.
They're not like, ooh,
Right.
you fooled me.
If you don't know what heroin's bad, I don't know where you've been living.
Yeah.
And so, it's a tough thing, but it's almost an issue of hope in our communities. And
Right.
I had a friend, same thing. Grew up together. My mom and his mom are still friends, and he just fell into like he had like 3 jobs and started partying, and then one time at a party, some dude was like, "Hey, like, you should try this," and he got addicted, and
Right.
he's doing better now, but it's still like I can't believe that I used to like go like on boating trips with this kid, and he like could have died. Like it's scary.
My question would be, why do the options have to be mutually exclusive?
Yeah, that's what. Yeah.
Why does it have? Why drives people? And this might be an indictment of that ideology, but what drives people to think we need to say?
We need to pick one.
We need to say, oh, just educate them. That solves all problems. Well, what about the people like Joe's friend who was, just like the rest of us, but just had different circumstances?
Mm-hmm.
Why can't we save him, and then maybe it just takes him a little longer to heal or to find an opportunity he's passionate about and get out of that circumstance?
Right. Yeah.
Why can't we have both?
I think that where a lot of people who have this viewpoint are coming from is it's kind of like, they look at probably the same way people who have teen pregnancy. Like, you just teach them abstinence, and that's our only prevention. But, people know what happens, how to make a baby, hopefully by the time they're having sex. So it's kind of like, you know what you're doing, you're playing with fire, but then people just look at drugs, they're so taboo, like people don't see the mental illness behind it, I think, which is where a lot of the opinions of like Narcan shouldn't be a thing, because we have an education system, and a lot of people don't see people growing up in like suburban New Hampshire, Massachusetts, like they don't see them using drugs, like they see the people in projects and inner cities using drugs. So I think that also has a huge, society's just view of a druggie is definitely different.
It's racist.
Yeah, and
Taught.
that's a whole other issue, yeah. But so do you guys have any other final comments before we wrap it up?
We gotta avoid doing cause and effect games, because there's so many causes and so many different effects that, for anybody to streamline it into just like this one crystallized view so it looks good on paper, so that a task force can do their best to attempt to repair things.
Right.
That's where we fail as society.
We need to give the experts the funding we need to treat these people like it's a disease,
Yeah.
because that's what it is.
We're also not looking at the effects it has on children, the children of users, like, because that's a huge problem too in this state. Like DCYF in Manchester they don't even have a building. They've been working out of their cars because they're not given any money, and kids are going right back to heroin users. And I think that affects use as well.
In Salem over the summer, there was one weekend in which we had 3 heroin overdoses. All 3 of them were like 24, 25, 26-year-olds, and they all OD'd right in front of their 4-year-old kids. And we do nothing as a society to how we're going to
and the state just gives them back to the parents, and it's not fair or right, and kids are dying at the hands of these people, and
Kids are being permanently
Scarred.
maimed through
abuse.
Abuse, malnutrition. They are growth stunted. They are mentally and developmentally stunted. I mean, it's ridiculous the neglect that we allow children to go through.
And death tolls of children are rising in this state, and in Massachusetts. And some kids aren't as lucky to be put in a foster home that's good, because sometimes they're not vetted enough, and there's not enough foster homes. People are leaving because it's so hard, because kids go in and they are so there's nothing, and they're dying, and they're being abused and hurt, and
And then we have issues with adoption law and foster home law.
And good luck.
the first instinct is to give them back, and that's not okay.
Yeah, Jake, what were you going to say?
I was just gonna say, you also think about the people who overdose, but think about the families of who overdose, or the parents who overdose and leave their children, or their children watched it happen.
Yeah.
To be scarred to see that also.
Actually being.
I think that's the first issue before we even begin with the Narcan, is taking these kids away from these people who I can't.
These situations.
These
Right.
situations.
Get them out of the situation.
But the first rule of that is the second mommy and daddy are clean again, you go back. And that's not okay.
Right, yeah. There's definitely a lot of issues that come along with it, but
Good luck being born.
Yeah.
And being.
There are tons of babies
The minute
these
you
days
come out,
that
you're
are
stuck with a methadone line.
Yeah.
Right into the arm.
because you're addicted. And I have a friend who works in the maternity ward, and she's seen stillborn births, kids who are born and are addicted to heroin and meth, and it's
So sad.
it's and born prematurely.
Right.
Like, how do you look at that kid and say, I'm sorry, first of all?
It's
How do you
selfish,
do that?
really.
It's very
disgusting.
sad that it's not impossible, but very, very difficult for people who want a child so badly to adopt, yet any person can
It's a
have
whole
a
other
kid.
conversation.
Yeah, definitely. Alrighty, well. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, man.
Ah.